Icon is one of those characters. He has one of the most ridiculous and over-the-top capes. Wouldn't you agree? Icon. He is the strongest man in the world. They say bullets bounce off of him. He can shoot lasers from his hands. He's decent and fairly good. And he can fly. Icon can see electromagnetic resonance. Call him Icon. Has good morals, is pacifistness. He likes to talk things out. He often holds back. When it comes to Icon's origin, even in his comics, he's actually did an origin recap. How it all began when a Starliner, I was on malfunction, he said. The malfunction caused the Starliner to explode. Fortunately, I was able to escape in a live pod. The pod, though badly damaged, worked well enough to locate and carry me to the nearest inhabitable planet. The pod was further damaged when it crashed here on Earth, but it did work well enough to alter my DNA to match that of a sentient native. It was not his choice on who his genetics picked. His genetic alterations were based on her DNA. He's been on Earth for 150 years. When it comes to beings like Icon from the Milestone comics, he's kind of under the radar, to the point where in recent stuff, you don't even really see him appear. He even made like a small cameo in recent stuff, but not much. An alien from another planet? Yes, that's how Icon looked. Named Arnis, where his house was broken into and he had to use his power for the first time in decades, and that's like the introduction to him. He's one of those characters that's portrayed to have really decent intellect, thanks to his actual work he does, like a big-time lawyer. He wasn't going to use his powers to save the world, but he was eventually convinced to use his means to be able to be a hero and stuff of that such. There was even a point where he was about to return to his original state rather than this state of the human form, but yet he found his skin most comfortable to wear in the body. He decided to defend citizens with this look as a human. It was stated thanks to the ship redoing him as a human child, it actually augmented it more than it was expected to, stating that the humans are extremely gifted species. How did humans react to his abilities? At first, some thought they were magical in nature, others considered them demonic. He used his powers secretly. His goal was to literally just wait it out until earthly technology got good enough to where he could literally repair his ship so he can go back to where he was supposed to be. Like back in these days, technology was trash. Since he doesn't age, he had to like fake his own death and began the fiction of betraying his own son. He would repeat this process with increasing difficulty several times during his stay on Earth. It was during one of these wars where he realized how much the genetics of the humans had changed him to the point where it was superhuman, where he got hit by this big old cannon. People thought he was dead. He was buried alive, but he got out. He was nearly unconscious. That's when he studied, became a lawyer, all that good stuff. Probably had some fighting training thanks to he fought with the Union during the Civil War. And here's another occasion of him showing his whole life history. War, graduated, married, lived in France during the 30s. War, wife's death because outlives her. Faked his own death several times because people will start noticing that this dude don't age. More implication of his skills is here. He fought with the Allies in World War II. He has to have some knowledge on using guns and stuff. Heck, in this occasion, you can even see him wielding a sword. DC Comics and the Dakota Milestone comic stuff was separated. But then this big event happened to where this top tier cosmic type being like Rift like kind of merged them literally together. Icon in his early days decided to start getting body armor so he can prevent injuries or slices through his chest like this from happening again from this creature. You forgive me for wearing body armor, but I recently had a bad experience with some talents quite similar to yours. So he had to fix that problem. Seems to have your standard abilities like super durability, like bulletproofness. Being able to bend this gun with this strength, strong enough to pick up trucks and slam them like that. This storage wall, he just lifts it up with his strength and literally casually sling people above skyscraper. And if you're not in this level of strength, he would just stop your punt. He even roasts him saying you're not strong enough. You can break guns like this. If you're a police officer and you try to come at him, you get knocked out with ease. Trying to put him in cuffs won't work. Manhandles grown man and crushes a gun. In this occasion, no guns for you. You go sleep time. Boogeyman get curb stomped, knocked out. Beings like DMZ get knocked the freak out. Beings that are this big and massive, beings that can absorb energy, he simply used so much energy, just overloaded them. Boogeyman, you get choked out and curb stomped, punching power, through a wooden barricade, rips up a floorboard with strength. We ain't gonna just act like he didn't pull Superboy out of this tsunami. He can punch through walls with ease. Icon has no problem one-shotting Mistress Monster, one of the many beings he fight, because he's strong like that. Being known as Onslaught, looking like an Iron Man, he battles, takes on this being with blast power on top of it, slams the vehicle, and there it is. Another occasion of him being bulletproof. Laser blast, ain't gonna always cut it. Being known as Holocaust was blasting with flames. He seems to be able to endure those type of heats too. Here in this occasion, they talk about the healing factor. Talks about it would take several days for it to heal all the way. So it's faster than normal, but not like no Wolverine levels or nothing, you know. He not only has super speed, but flight. He seems to be able to make sharp turns, etc. With his speed, he was able to intercept these bullets just thanks to the raw speed, then continues to blitz. Get murked. caught this man that jumped off a skyscraper. On top of him having crazy power physically and speeding, etc., but he also has blast power. He has control and can generate radiant energy based on positrons. He can bathe things in positrons, which is something that actually exists in real life. The quantum well surrounds the mild gamma particles. On this particular occasion, he can use this energy projection to be able to differentiate between a different being. In the Dakotaverse, they have this thing called bang babies and stuff. He's able to distinguish between superpower beings, bang babies, and even normal humans with this ability, along with shooting energy blast power type stuff. And this is how Wikipedia explains it. It's got a lot to do with antimatter of electrons. His buddy thought it was a bluff, but no, he really has blast power. Literally uses lasers like a shooter. He can blast through walls like that, KO a bunch of humans. Y'all got blast power night. He can even form energy shield around himself. With his energy, he can put his energy around his fists with his already super strength to enhance his punches with energy projection along with his super strength to cause extra damage. Or if he has to, encase, ensnare, or trap the being, a construct solid bubble to where they can't really escape. Reminded me of some Green Lantern type stuff. His blast can do this to a ton of water. Shadow clone version of himself, get murked. Defeats this being known as Holocaust with a beam. Blast power. Destroys this truck with his blast. Low powered stun bolt. Static and Icon and other Dakotaverse type characters wasn't originally a part of DC. They've been kind of incorporated into DC quite a lot, even in newer-ish type stuff. This is the best way to get an understanding of where the writers kind of want Icon in the power hierarchy. If they didn't want him in the power hierarchy of Kryptonians, they wouldn't have him hanging out with Kryptonians in these crossovers, but instead he would be hanging out with Batman and stuff, and we know that's not the case. Obviously, they want him in that Kryptonian-ish range of power. Somewhere in that range, even if he's not completely equal. Like fighting a being that Superboy had troubles with. Actually one-shotting a being that Superboy couldn't, like boom, flying through him. Beings that are strong enough to lift cars up. Stuff like that. Tries to fight Icon. Icon then proceeds in strength to pick up a car too. Completely obliterates him, stopping his punching power. Just to show, just because you have super strength doesn't mean you're on my level necessarily. In his slugfest versus the man, the myth, the legend himself, he punched Superman through a few buildings like that. In this era, he even punched Superman out the watchtower, but this was indeed staged though. They even talk about how they try to make it convincing. His hand is already healed up, so it's implied he did damage his hand punching him, implying that Superman might be above him. But at the same time, Superman did say that's an understatement. That is about as hard as I've ever been hit. He might not be meaning it literally, but it's still ridiculous respect on Superman's part, and it's also proven it can survive in space just casually. There was a time he punched with more force than that cave in. Which cave in are they talking about? They're talking about this cave in. So even if you don't want to take this scenario seriously to prove Icon's power level, the words collide event, I would say, was their way of really solidifying that Icon is supposed to interact with these DC type characters. Hey, he's even appeared in static comics in the DC comic run, so it's kind of implied that Icon is just here, the Dakotaverse people are just in DC in general. This is a good occasion of where he stacks up in the power hierarchy. Is a being that was fighting together with unimaginable power, narrated. This same being Rift, the problem I see it is I created two universes before I even realized I was capable of doing so. This being was trying to have Superman and Icon have a legit fight because they was only pretending to fight, he says before, but he wanted to give them some proper motivation to fight. Stated how he wanted to provide proper motivation for them. He then pretty much proposes, if you defeat Icon, I will bring Metropolis and everything back because he has the power to do so, with the only catch being you have to defeat Icon Superman to give Superman proper motivation. Icon even said, I concede. Repair Metropolis, Icon said he wanted to do the right thing rather than just fight for their own place or fight for Metropolis and stuff. He does not want to fight Superman. He'd rather talk things out. He says, I think you will. He's manipulating these heroes by destroying innocence like this because Rift simply can. He states how he can undo it if he agrees to fight Superman. But then Icon starts talking, if I defeat Superman, you will change it back, he's asking. Precisely. He's not asking him to kill, just win decisively. Then you can see the heroes literally debating about actually doing the little proposition, but in still genuine ways. I don't want to do this. If there's even a chance that Rift can save Metropolis, I have to take it, Superman says. Icon says, once Rift repairs Dakota, perhaps I'll be able to convince or force him to do the same for Metropolis. He actually believes he can force a being this powerful to do what he wants. They let you know how strong Icon believes himself to be too. Superman even says, I can turn my attention to saving Dakota and putting an end to Rift's menace once and for all. I certainly can't leave the fate of both cities in Superman's hands. And that's when the two actually battle pretty, not bloodlusted, but they battle seriously because they actually want to save their places, but they still want to save the other person's place too, but they're actually fighting for their place this time. So it's more motivation. think this is clear writer intent that in the power hierarchy, they want him to be around a certain range, not in a street tier or something. Even he acknowledges this may require some strategy because they cause that much damage with their blows from supes. Superman even complimented his strength, saying he almost knocked me out. The part I showed a little earlier when he punched Superman, it was kind of like a sucker punch, catching him off guard through all those buildings. Icon does admit that Superman is his physical superior, but the gap isn't astronomical, because why would Superman say stuff like this if the gap in strength was astronomical between the two? Superman definitely might have an edge, but it's not astronomical, because why would he say this? But at the same time, he did say he was his physical superior. Icon tries to suffocate Superman, but he doesn't really need to breathe. Heat vision's burning him. Icon starts to get more serious, starts blasting with his blast power in a fight with Supe. Started getting more serious, shooting at Superman with some energy blast power in this occasion. He thought it was over and it's not finished. They fight even more punches like that. It's a drawn out. Then he stops the fight knowing that neither of them will yield to one another, so he's gonna force an ending, he says. Icon did admit that Superman had the strength advantage, but he ain't that far behind, and just considering all the crazy stuff when it comes to moving planets, holding black holes, this type of stuff Superman's done in my Superman video, Icon states it's a pleasure not having to hold back. They even talk about how Superman can move planet, and Icon's still able to hit him. It's pretty insane to be even somewhere near him. Even if you say he's 80% Superman strength, that's still ridiculously strong, and that means he's way above the planet ranges when it comes to punching power, lifting power, all that good stuff, especially with his blast power on top of his muscles and stuff. Icon has a lot of strength feats that don't really show off in the limits of his strength. His battle feats are better, like the occasions with Superman, to really show how strong he is. When it comes to just raw displays of strength, he does this stuff effortlessly, like lifting up elevators and cars. All this stuff is light. Don't really see his physicals push. He just does a lot of good Samaritan stuff, like saving these people here and stuff. Or picking up and tossing cars around is something he does a lot. In this occasion, he beats up on some aliens, opens up a garage door by force, can pick you up. He doesn't like Tommy guns, it just bends it up. Punches Oblivion's face off, which is like a shadow dark version of him. He can move faster than the eyes can perceive. It's implied in this occasion with the sharp turning, they can do things in quick succession, because being able to just perceive things slower, doing hobbies really quickly, speed. He's withstanding punches from Superman. Obviously, Superman wasn't trying to kill him, obviously, but still cool. But hey, he can make after images with his speed. So when it comes to compare it to the Man of Steel obviously got the advantage. Don't get the fact of him being weaker mistaken with like he's a street tier in comparison type weaker. Like he ain't that far behind weaker. A good example would be how we all would agree that Starfire is physically weaker than Superman also. It wouldn't necessarily mean Icon is Deathstroke or Bane level physically just because you're weaker. That doesn't necessarily mean you're a billion or gazillion times weaker either. Like Icon is definitely above super soldiers like Bane and Deathstroke physically, but weaker than Superman by a decent margin, but not a big margin like these guys. It ain't like Icon's Batman level strong trying to punch Superman. Superman wouldn't even feel it at all. Superman even talks about how he respects his punching power, so it definitely ain't that low in the hierarchy. But at the same time, that could also be just me. What do you like about Icon? I do believe he's definitely at least in the black hole ranges by default, as of very least. Black holes can vary in power, way past solar system level, stuff like that when it comes to destructive capacity, obviously. But you just shouldn't sleep on them. But I also want to give a quick shout out to those that have taken the time to donate to the channel. Helps out a lot, believe it or not. But respect Icon.